Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our 311 call center. I don't get to be here as often as I like to, but I know our director, Nancy Alfaro, always welcomes me because usually when we're here together, we get to announce yet another great tool, if not a modification of our 311 center that I think the public and the residents like to see. You know, when we first created the 311 center and we were here for that start, we wanted a tool that would certainly lift the burden off of all of the volumes of calls that were going to 911. 911 is for real emergencies, life and death, whatever is happening on the street currently that would be of an emergency nature needs to be called through to 911. You will get an immediate fire and police and Department of Emergency response on that. On a day-to-day basis, and we have a lot of other calls, and we have tried to direct those, and now there are thousands every day that come to 311, and we're glad because there are calls for information, for referrals, for how to do this and get that out of the various departments of the city. As you know, as a city, we've been very active in helping our people on our streets, particularly our homeless population, make sure they get the services that they need. And it is a challenge because we've not had all of the housing that we want. We are building that as quickly as possible and rehabbing affordable units as much as possible. But there are things that happen on our streets where our residents sometimes say, should I call 911 or somebody? I see somebody and they don't look too healthy. And we've had a few incidences on our streets where, had we had an earlier call appropriately, there could have been a health check, if you will, or a care check on somebody that may not have looked right, but wasn't necessarily that emergency. Somebody didn't see something happening that seemed of emergency. Often myself, I've made calls to 311 where somebody is not necessarily in a door front, but seems like they're passed out and maybe they need some help. These are things that happen on our streets. We are a very congested city, and we want to make sure that if it's not a 911 call, but perhaps there could be a health check or a care check on somebody, then maybe 311 can do something about that. And so over the past weeks, 311, through the leadership of Nancy Alfaro, our city administrator who oversees this division, worked with a variety of departments: public health, our police department, our public works department, our hot teams, through Bevan's Hope program, all worked together to respond to what neighbors were telling us is that there should be an app, perhaps something that's a little more modern use, that some people don't have the time to make the call, but can actually, with their fingertips, more instantaneously communicate with 311, with our departments, and not try to figure out whose responsibility is, but 311 is magically there to figure that out for our residents and for our visitors or anybody else that wants and sees something on our sidewalks, on our streets, that we ought to be able to respond to. And so in this app, we were excited in just the past few weeks to get everybody together in the room and to see whether or not we can develop an app that allows people to quickly scroll through a very quick push button effort to say, hey, I've got something on this street or on this particular intersection that you need to see, and somebody should check on that individual. We are a compassionate city. We care about the people on our streets, and we want to make sure that if it is not an emergency, but we ought to be able to follow up on somebody that might look that they are in need of some help, at least a health check or a care check ought to be followed up on that. And this is why we created this 311 app. And I know Nancy is going to follow up on the details of this, but I want to lead this effort by saying a big thank you to her team, working with all of the other departments, because they all want to also be able to get to where somebody suggests to us there might be something that is happening with somebody that we care about. I believe that this is an exhibition of the city having a deeper compassion for people on the street, not less, and that we want to do something about it, that we want to provide it to the right agency to follow up with. And this is why all of the departments here are working together so that they can be part of it. Meanwhile, we do what we do every day. The DPW and the HOT teams visit encampments of people on our streets. We assist them more and more. We're getting them into places like the Navigation Center or referring their services to the shelters that we have, or inviting them to the latest Project Homeless Connect program, where we have all the services housed on a quarterly basis in different parts of the city. And while we work on short and long-term answers to getting more temporary, more long-term housing, we are again continue to be focused on ending chronic homelessness for our veterans by the end of this year. We have been focused on our transitional aged youth, and then more and more we are getting the data together to respond to more of our families and youth being homeless through our school district and finding out creative ways in which we can tackle that challenge as well. We have a housing crisis in the city. We're trying to build and rehab and stabilize neighborhoods as we're doing so. And a lot of people, everybody from the development sector and the business sector to the philanthropic and nonprofit sector are all collaborating with our city agencies to do better. Barbara Garcia and I are working very diligently with Trent Rohr and Human Services, with the federal agencies, with the state agencies, as we introduce Laura's Law and as we figure out the mental health and behavioral health and drug abuse challenges that are happening on our streets. Meanwhile, we ought to make sure that things that are there on our streets can be responded to quickly. And we want to, as we've done with this 311 app, to invite the public, residents, the people that walk our streets, to make sure that they have an ability to communicate with city services that do care and will respond to situations on the street, and particularly to people who might be on our streets that are in need of something but may not be a 911 situation. I want to, again, distinguish between 911 and 311. 911 will continue to be the number everybody calls if there is a true emergency, if something is happening, whether it be a public safety issue or a health issue. But 911 is where it may not, but in your mind, somebody ought to follow up with something. And persons on our streets, we don't know all the time whether they're in immediate need or not. But if it appears to someone that someone is in need, that they don't look like they are comfortable at all, perhaps this is where the 311 health check ought to be had. So with that, I'd like to introduce, of course, our Director of 311, Nancy Alfaro, to go into some detail.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership in asking to implement these changes so that all of us can make a difference by easily reporting what we see in our neighborhoods and our streets. At 311, we're always looking at improving ways in which the public can connect to government. With over 50% of the requests already coming in via mobile or web for requests such as graffiti or broken streetlights, we see that the demand is high for people wanting to access government services easily. Expanding our SF311's app's menu of non-emergency services to now include homeless concerns is yet providing another way, convenient way for the public to be proactive in being able to report concerns and issues as they see them. At this point, I would like to thank my team for working on this, as well as the departments here, the Office of Hope, the Department of Emergency Management, the Police Department, Public Works, Department of Public Health, City Administrator's Office. It really took all these departments to work collaboratively and to build a partnership for these enhancements to happen today. With this, I'm going to introduce the Chief of Police, Chief Greg Sir.
Thank you, Nancy. I too want to thank the mayor for his leadership on this. Obviously, we have the non-emergency number 5530123. It can't be stressed enough that the way to report an emergency is still call 911. If you want or need somebody in a hurry, you have an emergency, something in progress, somebody's in danger, you got to call 911. You still have to call 911. That said, again, Nancy and the team that she just mentioned, to come up with this 311 app is just a fantastic way in a city that knows how, the innovation center of the world, to coin the phrase, now there's an app for that. It is so important. This summer, we met with 70 young people in partnership with MoMagic, the mayor's office, SF Hope, and the police department. And one of the things they asked for to be better engaged were apps. If they were going to report things, tip lines, they wanted an app. We have an entire generation out there that has phones that don't know they make phone calls. It would be so great now for a whole tech-savvy city like San Francisco to be able to use an app so that they can call on folks. As they say, we could very well be headed for an epic wet, cold winter. We have a lot of people that are on the ground, and we need to make sure that everybody's taken care of. This 311 app will go a long way towards us getting out in front of it. So not only is it about time, it's timely that this year, ahead of a very wet winter and cold winter, that we can take care of the less fortunate in a way that maybe no one ever would have imagined even just some months ago. So again, I applaud the team behind me, certainly the mayor that knows how, and Nancy Alfaro. She's being modest, but this was nothing short of an heroic effort to get this done before the winter is upon us, so that we can go check on the well-being of the less fortunate. So I appreciate it. And now to introduce the next member of the team from DPW, who, again, we couldn't get it done without them, Larry Stringer.
Morning. Public Works is out there on the streets 24/7, 365. We understand that we are facing some challenges, and this app will help a lot. I want to give a special thanks for the leadership of the mayor and Nancy Alfaro for adding this to the app. We currently have 3 proactive crews that go throughout the city 7 days a week. What we don't have that this app will definitely help is additional data that may have us adjust, but we will now also be responsive as well as with the predefined. And I'm looking forward to gathering the data. We may adjust the routes. It may even call for more resources. However, with this information and allowing the public to report it, it will greatly help us do our job to keep the city cleaner. Thanks. And I will now introduce my other partner, Barbara Garcia.
Good morning, everyone. We're very excited about this new app. Presently, our homeless outreach team, through the mayor's efforts, has doubled the number of members on our teams throughout the city. We already respond to 311 calls, but those are multiple calls because somebody has to call 311. Then they have to determine what status it is. With this new app, we can have that pretty directly, and that will really help us in responding to these calls. I just want to note that the Department of Public Health, as well as a 24/7 program, so as individuals who may be very ill are picked up through this process, we will be able to provide them that care, as an example, in San Francisco General Hospital. But we already have teams that are out there. We have teams that go out to not only homeless issues, but violent issues throughout the city on a 24-hour basis. At least our homeless outreach teams right now will be able to be in every district, and they'll be prepared for these 311 calls as they come in. They're very excited. We're already trained, and we're ready to continue to respond to, as I walk down the street, I see everybody with the cell phone, so I do know that the public will be responding to us as they see those in need, and we want to assure the public that we will be there in response to the homeless needs in our communities. Thank you very much. Now I will introduce Erica Sandberg, and she's an example of a community member who saw needs and began calling, and I think she's one of our heroes today in helping us lead this effort. Erica.
Hi. So yeah, I'm a resident of San Francisco. I am a lover of San Francisco. As soon as I set eyes on this city, I fell in love many, many, many years ago. And I have a daughter who's now second generation San Franciscan. It is unconscionable. It is so depressing and so upsetting to walk by people every day on practically every block and say, nothing I can do. For that reason, I organized a group of people in my neighborhood and beyond to say, well, what can we do? There's got to be something that we could do. Is 911 right? Is it not right? Who can we call? What can we do? And it's not just helping the people on the street. It's empowering the neighborhood to say, this is not okay, and we cannot continue to walk by. So somebody had a great idea and said, well, there should be an app. And I'm like, absolutely, there totally should be an app. Everyone's got a smartphone. And then next thing I know, there's an app. So great ideas, great minds think alike, I think. I could not be more excited about this. I'm literally vibrating with happiness about this because I want it on everybody's phone. I want it on visitors' smartphones, in merchants' windows to say, download this app. I want it on low income, moderate income. Everybody is going to be a major victim of its success because it's so necessary. We need to find a way to get these people, anybody, services, and get them off the street. I'm a huge optimist. I think this is going to be a great way to go, and I could not be more excited. I really want to get the word out. So let's just keep doing this. I love innovation. This is San Francisco, one of the best cities for innovation. Just thrilled, absolutely thrilled about this, and happy to be here. And I don't know who to there we go. Okay.
So prior to concluding this, I would like to show the types of concerns that can be reported through the app and just demo a little bit here. So as you pick a new request on the phone, now it will have a homeless concerns as an option right at the very top of the issues that can be reported. And after describing your location, you have the different types of concerns that can be reported. Because it's on the mobile, it already identifies where you're at, so you don't have to enter a location. It would already determine that. But we have well-being check, aggressive behavior, both non-emergency, of course, everything should be non-emergency. Encampments, clean up waste, clean up shopping carts, clean up other concerns that can be reported now via the app. I think with that concludes this event. So thank you very much for attending.